دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافعان خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار آزمون و توی دروازه سردار آزمون گل به نام آزمون و برای ایران
بزنه کریم انصاری گل توی دروازه کریم انصاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد
علی دایی سام توپ توی دروازه
اشتباه حرکت از قوچان نژاد فرصت برای قوچان نژاد توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
یه بار دیگه حمله تیم ملی ما داخل زمین قطر، این تیم تحت فشار و اینم سومیش، اینم گل سوم، موتور ما روشن شد و سردار آزمون دروازه قطر رو باز کرد.
Hey guys, we're back with another episode of Gol Bezan. I am Sina Sadrzadeh, back with hosting the episode. It's been a while since I've hosted. Really excited to be back and joined by Erfan and Arya. Great to have you guys on the pod. How are you?
Good. The dynamic duo is back, Erfan and I. Yeah, it's great to be here. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, I know you lot have been missing me, main host and everything, but we're back to normal. I know, like, I think Samson was hosting. He said he was getting tired of his own voice. So I don't get tired of my own voice. We're all good. So we're talking about Jordan and Qatar today. It's going to be a fairly short episode because we've just done a run fairly recently, but talking about the results, we won both games, which is good. Qatar was a fairly nice one because it was the return of Queiroz, which is nice. Won that game 4-0. But let's talk about Jordan first. So I guess, Erfan, coming to you first. With the Jordan game, did anything surprise you in terms of formations and lineups?
Yeah, hello Sina. Thanks for having me on once again. And I wouldn't say anything surprised me. It was something actually expected. There was no real surprises. We saw Squish's favorite centre-back partnership back, Kanani and Khalilzadeh, even though they were shaky, and not many people would agree with that. But overall, I think the lineup was expected, and I think it's close to what we're going to see at the Asian Cup early next year.
Yeah, we'll contrast that to the Qatar game because Kanani was benched, Puraganji came in. But yeah, I guess like going into the tactics side of things, and Erfan, I'll stick with you. What did Iran do well, and sort of what did they do badly? Was it a good preparation for the Asian Cup?
Well, yeah, Jordan away has always been a tough test for us under any manager previously. We have struggled to beat them. I believe the last two games were both draws, so it's not like we had the best record against them. And we always play many Arab sides at the Asian Cup, whether it's like last year when we played Oman or Iraq in the group stages. So I think playing a good side like Jordan away, it's even though some people might say, oh, it's just an easy game, it's not really worth anything, I'd say it is actually good preparation. And for the tactics, what Iran did really well was finishing the game off early. In the first half an hour, Azmoun and Taremi, they both scored 2 goals, and from there on, it looked like Jordan had no hope, even though we did get a bit lucky at the end after our defense made some mistakes and they were given a late penalty, which I still think was not a penalty. I think it was a dive by the Jordan player. But yeah, after that, a very good counter-attack by Mehrdad Mohammadi. We were talking about this in the last episode, that Mehrdad Mohammadi has been called up, you know. Amir Khalenoui saw his speed and he thought that maybe that was needed in the squad. And as we saw, it helped out the squad and we ultimately got the win.
Yeah, and then Arya, I guess, who stood out for you in the game?
For me, who stood out the most is Otolahi for how bad he was. Other than that, the good players would probably be Azmoun and Taremi. I think the usual suspects. I think they were both amazing. Azmoun was very, very good. He needed that goal, not getting any, playing time with Roma. So it's nice to see him on the scoreboard. The defense was very shaky. Azmoun was very shaky. And Erfan pretty much said everything. I think the one thing that Erfan forgot to mention is we kind of did a good job at suppressing the Jordanian player Moussa Al-Tamari, who's having a great season with Montpellier. Didn't really do anything in that game against Iran, so I think it was a good thing that we were able to do so.
Do you think I guess our defense it's rarely tested, I guess, within the Asian and I guess like Arab like friendlies that we have. And I guess like when it comes to the big games, big competitive games, I think they get tested, but it's in a competitive match, so it's not the right time for them to be tested. Now, what I'm sort of apprehensive about is, yes, we won the game and we won both games, but I feel like if Taremi and Azmoun aren't playing well and our defense, as usual, they're a bit shaky, does that leave us open to just losing very easily?
Maybe not losing very easily, but it definitely is, in my opinion, I think it gives leeway for other teams to score goals on us. I don't like us conceding goals to teams like Jordan and such. And it's just, if we're conceding goals like that to them, what is going to happen when we play even better teams? Saudi Arabia, Japan, Australia, South Korea. And I'm sure Erfan can agree here, but it's really, we need to kind of find a way of, I guess, being less shaky in defense. I mean, it's kind of too late to do that, I would say. But another thing, a little bit unrelated to the defense, is I was kind of hoping Ghoddos would start, but I'm not surprised he didn't. I think, I mean, we're going to talk about it, I'm sure, in the for the Qatar game. But I kind of wanted him to start too.
Yeah, what do you think, Erfan?
Yeah.
He did start in the Qatar game, of course, but what do you think?
Yeah, I actually wanted to add to your guys's the defense points. And yeah, Arya mentioned that well, it's gonna cost us against bigger teams. Now, Jordan, they had a few chances that they probably should have scored, especially by Tamari. And looking back, an example could be, let's say, the Asian Cup. So until the semifinals, we had 5 clean sheets. We hadn't conceded a single goal, even though we did make a mistake against Oman and conceded the penalty, but thankfully it was saved. But we did look a bit shaky towards the end of the tournament, and then, like we saw, it cost us during the Japan game. I think we have somewhat of a similar issue right now, and I hope Khalid Noy and his team can fix it before the Asian Cup starts.
Yeah, but they don't have much time. That's the problem. And they don't have many games either. So, I mean, there was a slight improvement, I would say. So going into the Qatar game, let's talk about that now. I guess like defensively with Pirelli Ganji going in instead of Kanani was benched. Obviously he came on and actually scored 2 goals. But I guess like what do you make of the defensive performance in this game compared to the first one, Arya?
I think the defense was much better in the Qatar game. I was really impressed with the performances of both fullbacks, Rezaian and Mohammadi. Rezaian, which guy I believe was, I think they both got 2 assists each, if I'm not mistaken.
He played very well.
The only downside of I would say Miran Mohammadi is sometimes he does, I don't know, man. I don't know if you guys realize, but he's a little bit shaky when he has the ball. Like, I don't feel 100% safe when he has the ball and he's by himself. But other than that, I think the defense was great. Obviously, Pirelli Ganji's injury, which we're going to get in a bit, I would say, I guess, changed the outcome of the game. Yeah, the defense was much better, which was good to see.
Like, so Erfan, what does Pirelli Ganji give that, say, Kanani doesn't in this lineup?
I'd say 2 things. First of all, the experience. Kanani and Pirelli Ganji, I mean, if he didn't get injured, this would have been his 3rd Asian Cup. He played in both the 2015 and 2019 editions. And second of all, the mentality. Now, we saw when Kanani scored both the goals, how he acted, tried to celebrate in front of Carlos Queiroz because of him being dropped at the World Cup. And those kind of silly moves, I'd say, or it looks like he's overconfident, and that can cost him. And that's what Pirelli Ganji brings to the table. that Kanani does it. Now, I've seen a lot of people happy that Ganji got injured, but I think defensively he is better than Nourizadeh. So it's sad to see him. I wish him a speedy recovery. And yeah.
I mean, now that you mentioned it, it's worth bringing up. Obviously, like thoughts are with him. Speedy recovery for sure. I mean, obviously you don't expect that from an experienced defender though. Him going in recklessly for a challenge like that within a friendly. I think they were already they were already winning that game as well. It wasn't like, yeah, they're already winning. It doesn't make sense to do that. Like, I don't know why with his track record of being injured, it doesn't make sense. I don't know why he went in that recklessly. What do you guys think?
I think it was 0-0 actually.
Was it 0-0?
He came off for Canon.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It was 0-0. But I mean, the momentum was with them.
For sure. Yeah, you just don't do that. I don't know what his intention was. I don't know if he had a plan in mind by doing that. But I'll let Erfan speak on this one. He knows more than me when it comes to that. I think you've summarized it pretty well, Sina, with the way he went into that challenge. So it's unfortunate, but it's things that happen in football, and hopefully he doesn't do something like that in the future.
Yeah, this tackle actually kind of counters both my points, which I made earlier. But yeah, players have these moments, and yeah, nothing can be done except for wishing him a speedy recovery.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we've got any news of him, whether he'll be able to return for the Asian Cup or not. I think the news hasn't come out yet. So I guess fingers crossed, because he does provide a different element to what Kanani or even just any of our defensive options, I guess, provides. So it's good to have him. Yeah. So yeah, speedy recovery for sure. I guess like one thing that you mentioned, Erfan, was Kanani celebrated in front of Carlos Queiroz. What were your sort of thoughts with him lining up against his old side? And obviously, it wasn't long ago since he was managing us.
I think that Amir Ghalnoui, or not Amir Ghalnoui specifically, but Iran didn't let Qatar and Carlos Queiroz breathe in this game. Because from the beginning of the game, it was all Iran. I don't remember a single good chance for Qatar, except maybe one towards the end of the first half. But yeah, I think that Carlos Queiroz, I expected better from him. He is the one who made this team, you could say. He's the one he's worked with almost all the players on the squad. And I expected maybe a better analysis from his team. And I knew we were going to win this game, but I thought it would have been much closer. And to be fair, they did hang on pretty well until around the 70th minute. But I think after that first goal went in, everything just collided for Carlos Queiroz's team.
Yeah, they scored 4 goals within, I think, like 15 minutes or so. So the
10
floodgates,
minutes.
10 minutes, the floodgates opened. But yeah, Arya, I thought the same thing as Erfan. I thought like Carlos Queiroz, built this team over many years. He knows the strengths, and more importantly, he knows the weaknesses, of which there are a few. So I don't know, like, what did he get wrong? What did we get right?
Yeah, as Erfan said, the game, even I expected it to be much closer. I was not expecting a 4-0 win. I was expecting maybe a 1-0, 2-0 at best. They really crumbled at the end. I think that's the moral of the game. What went wrong for Queiroz? Everything, really. Conceding 4 goals in a span of 5-10 minutes. All the tactics and plans are out of the window by that point. So, it's I guess, is it a sign that his tactics are just not working anymore? Does he need to change things up? Well, that's for him to decide. But it was good. It was good to see 4 goals in 5-10 minutes. It's something that we don't really see often.
Yeah, so I want to talk about 2 things about the game specifically. One is about set pieces, and one about Saman Ghoddos, because I think he played pretty well that game. So let's talk about set pieces first. We haven't been too prolific from set pieces in the past, and I think this game, it just provided a new element, because we scored like from a few, not just set pieces, but also from the wing, from fullbacks. So I guess, like, what does that tell you about this Iran team going into the Asian Cup, Erfan?
Yeah, first of all, I'll start off with Ramin. I mean, this kid just keeps on getting better and better for Iran. All the previous set piece goals, He's been involved in most of them. We saw both of the goals against Kenya. He was involved, and again, both the corners, 2 great crosses and 2 great finishes by Kanani. During the World Cup, I think, except maybe for the Wales game, it was something we struggled with. The full-back position, especially the left-back position. Milad's performance against USA was abysmal until Jalali came in, who was better than Milad, but still, there was room for improvement. And Milad has been Harsh Safi's backup actually at AEK Athens. But he did play very good against Qatar, even though, as Arya mentioned earlier on, he did look shaky on the ball. But he provided a lot going forward. And I think this could be a very good tactic for us going into the Asian Cup, because a lot of teams like to play defensive against strong teams like Iran. So if we play out from the fullbacks, if they invert in, I think it could be a good way to get past these defenses and score goals against them.
What do you think, Arya?
Yeah, I think Erfan is absolutely spot on. If we can use this tactic well and efficiently, I think we can cause a lot of damage, especially against teams that, I mean, not necessarily just for the Asian Cup, but in general. If we play against big teams where we won't necessarily have too many chances, if we can get a few set pieces, whether that's free kicks or corners, if we can execute them well, then I think it'd be very, very effective. Maybe this is something that Anoa'i is going to implement for the Asian Cup. I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I hope it's something that we can use for sure.
And then now let's talk about Saman Ghoddos, because he came in and started this game, didn't start the previous game against Jordan. What do you make of his performance? And I know he's found a new club, but it's actually his previous club, Brentford, hasn't had any minutes. So I was actually fairly surprised about how in shape he was, how fit he was. He managed to basically boss the game. What do you guys think? Erfan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this just shows the effect of players training almost daily with Premier League level players and having the facilities of teams like that. It just shows, even if you don't play, even if you don't necessarily get all the play time, but you're still going to be fit and at that top level. So, and to be honest, it's just a joy watching him play, especially over the last 2 months for Iran. And when he plays in his natural position, it's even better. Some of the passes he was making, his vision and everything, it was something nice to see, and we haven't seen something like that in a long time.
It was quite cool seeing him play. Yes, he played in his favorite position, but he was actually dropping fairly low back. So he was giving an alternative option to the 2 centre backs, the full backs, which I haven't seen him play that role for a few. Well, I mean, he hasn't played it for Brentford at all, but I think the last time I saw him play like that was maybe against Uruguay in a friendly. So yeah, it's a very different element. I'm really enjoying that sort of role that he plays. But even Taremi was coming back and receiving the ball against Qatar. So maybe he's trying to play that sort of Harry Kane role. But yeah, what do you think, Arya?
Yeah, I was actually expecting Ezzatolahi to be dropped after what he did against Jordan, and then Ghoddos replacing him. Then we saw Ghoddos he replaced was it Nourizadeh. But yeah, he was fantastic. Like Erfan said, bossed the game. And I think it shows that he should be starting every game for Iran realistically now. And I hope he does, because whenever he does play, whenever he does start, whenever he does the minutes, whenever he has the opportunities, the chances, he always provides. I don't think he should be dropped anymore, but with Mr. Amir Anoa'i,
Yeah, Anoa'i, I don't think rates him though. Even though he plays well, I don't think he rates him deep down. That's the vibe that I get. What do you reckon?
I actually think that he does rate him, because if he did not, he wouldn't have called them up in the previous camp, And I think they have a good relationship. And I think the reason why he didn't start against Jordan was maybe to not risk any injuries, because it was an easier game than the game against Qatar. Maybe to keep him in shape for the Qatar game. And yeah, I think that he will start from now
on. Okay, cool. Any other players that stood out for you guys?
In the Qatar game, I think I don't know. I want to talk a little bit about Mohamed Mohebi, which I feel like was a little bit disappointing in that game.
I agree with you actually. Yeah, he was on the ball a lot, but he didn't really provide much.
He did provide the pre-assist for Mohamedi's assist, and it was actually pretty beautiful. It was a beautiful play.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I don't know. He reminds me a lot of Kingsley Coman in a bad way. Whereas wherever he has the ball, he dribbles and he shoots. That's all he does. And often, most of the time, the shots that he takes are not good shots. It doesn't provide anything to the game. Is it a question of greed? Is he trying to be the hero? I'm not too sure. But I was very, very disappointed with his performance. And it's a little bit weird because sometimes he seems to have the best of games, and then sometimes he seems to have the worst of games. He's not consistent, is what I'm trying to get at. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I completely agree with Arya. I think consistency is Mohebi's main problem. He didn't impress much in these two games, and I would have expected him to play better, especially since he got his first goal for Rostov against the league leaders a few days before. But yeah, he didn't play too well. Like you mentioned, he got that good pre-assist. And speaking of other players that caught my eye, there's the usual Taremi and Azmoun. Taremi, even though he didn't get a goal or an assist, like you mentioned, he dropped back a lot and helped a lot with the midfield and even the defenders at some points of the game.
Yeah.
And Azmoun with that brilliant left-footed shot, keeper had no chance. And yeah,
that's what I like about Taremi. As he's matured, he's taken more responsibility within the team. So if he's not getting the ball in the strike force, he brings it upon himself to drop further back and sort of demand the ball from his defenders, help out the team to basically push up. I really enjoy watching him do that. He wasn't doing that when he was younger, and that's what I really enjoy. Maybe because he was like playing on the wing when he was younger, I don't know, but yeah, I really enjoy him taking that role and the responsibility.
I mean, like you guys mentioned it already, the Harry Kane role that he seems to be playing is it helps a lot. It helps a lot. And I'm a Bayern fan. I watch Harry Kane day in, day out. That's what he does in games, and it's just they're very, very similar. So if he's able to do that against the bigger teams and it works successfully, then I think it would be of immense help. So hopefully he keeps on.
That's why he was linked with Spurs for a while, because he was a very natural replacement to him.
This Taremi has matured a lot, like you said, and he's very different to the Taremi 5-6 years ago in Al Gharrafa. He was getting made fun of by both the Iranian and the Qatari media for missing some chances. And now at Porto, I think he's matured a lot. He's got the experience, and he would, I would say, almost mastered that position that he's playing in. He's playing consistently in the European Champions League, and that's a very good level to play in for a Team Melli player, and that shifts from the UEFA Champions League to the games for Iran, as we saw over the last two friendlies.
And obviously there's a lot of transfer news around him, so we'll see what happens in January, if not in the summer. So another thing that you guys wanted to mention across both games was the lack of opportunity for the youth players. What do you guys make of that, Arya? Or you want to say something else?
I can make a whole essay video on how frustrating it is to not see young players play for Iran. In the pre-game space that Erfan and I hosted, there was literally a war going on between Team Melli fans and others on who should play, who shouldn't. But, I think there's this big debate on, well, are there any good young players for Iran that should be in that Team Melli list, and if so, who? If so, who should play, and how much should they play? I mean, we're in a time right now where I guess youth football in Iran isn't going so well compared to the previous years, but we've got a few talented players out there for sure. I mean, Hasbavi is probably the biggest example. I think it's first and foremost frustrating, but it's really annoying that he's not getting any minutes. And I'm not asking Hoseiny to play him for the whole 90 minutes, but at the minimum, give him a few minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes. The game was already done at 2-0, 3-0. Why not put him on? He did put, what's his name? Hoseiny for the last, 5-10 minutes when the game was already done. there's no point in doing that.
I think he got maybe 2 touches of the ball, 1 touch of the ball, something like that.
And so is he going to call up young players for the Asian Cup? Probably not. I think Hazbavi and Hoseiny might be the only 2 that get called up, or maybe Salmani, I'm not sure. But I think it's really time that we kind of focus on our youngsters and try to implement them. Maybe not necessarily for the Asian Cup, but for the future as well. Because these players are going to leave, man. They're not going to be here for too long. So we need, the future generation to replace them. And not just youngsters, but even dual nationals that we should start maybe pursuing and seeing if there's anyone worth taking. Because I think we're very poor in that aspect as well. We don't go for dual nationals at all. And there's tons of dual nationals that we could be going for.
I completely agree. This is an aging side. They've been aging for a long time. I feel like they need to be replaced. They need to be competed with as well from youth players, because a lot of players I feel like would benefit from younger players sort of, at the danger of taking their place. But right now their places are kind of safe. I'm talking about some places in midfield, Ezatollahi, Nourizadeh, maybe on the wing, I don't know. But like the youth always offers a different perspective. So I would love to see more youth players, and obviously like dual nationals as well. Erfan, do you have anything else to say on this matter before we move on to preparation for the Asian Cup?
On the Hazbavi point, I completely agree with. I think he should have gotten maybe the same amount of game time as Hoseiny. I think there were like 7 or 8 substitutions available. I mean, at the end, this is a friendly. So I think that maybe Hazbavi should have gotten some game time as well. And but there is a dilemma that maybe it's not a good time to play these youngsters because we're close to the Asian Cup, and maybe Khaled wants to find his lineup that he'll be using. But from what we've seen, it's never the time to play youngsters. So hopefully it gets sorted out. But from what I've heard, is that Khaled actually really likes Hoseiny. I think it was the game against Paycon earlier in the season where he was in the stands himself, and he was really impressed by him, and that's what led him to calling him up for this camp. So hopefully he can shift him into the team maybe after the Asian Cup, because he's a very, very talented player, and I hope he gets a good move after this season with Sepahan.
So Arya, you want to talk about one more youth player before we move on to Asian Cup preparations?
Yeah, I wanted to mention Yassin Salmani, who, as you guys all heard, got pretty badly injured, is going to be out for the rest of the season. What do you guys think that this injury means for him in the long run? I mean, he's not going to get called up and such, obviously. Where do we go from here?
Well, I still think he's obviously got a career within the national team. It's just unfortunate that he's been injured, but injuries happen all the time. And I mean, we talked just before off air, like Sayed Manish, been injured for a long time, hasn't played for Iran for a long time. So you get these players, like young players, that getting injured. But like given how old our national team is, they're 100% going to get an opportunity in the future. It's just unfortunate they miss out on tournament football this time around.
Yeah, I'd like to mention what I think caused this injury. But before that, I want to say that when Persepolis play with and without Salmani, they're 2 completely different teams. Like, he changes that team so much, and he, at this age, to become such a player for such a club, such a big club in Iran at least, it's very, very good. And it is a setback for him. And what I think caused this injury was not only playing 5 games in the space of 13 days, but the federation's horrible plan with him, I would say, because he went with the U23s to Uzbekistan for the qualifiers. Then he went back to Doha, to Tehran to play the ACL game with Persepolis. Then again, after that, he went to China to play at the Asian Games. Then again, he went back to Doha for the ACL game against Dohail. And he was actually going to get sent back to China again after that if Iran made the semifinals. But yeah, we saw how that turned out. And I think that just shows how careless the federation can be sometimes. They didn't work probably with the Olympic Committee, and the Olympic Committee is really mad at the federation now because they promised that Salmani would stay for the rest of the Asian Games. But then Mahdi Taj, he went to Hangzhou himself and called Salmani back up for Persepolis. So yeah.
Yeah, with these young players, I guess like that happens. They end up just being used a lot. I mean, like the only other similarity I can draw is Pedri for Spain. He plays an unreal amount of games. Like he was playing a national team, he was playing obviously for Barcelona. So like he plays an unreal amount of games, but somehow he's not getting injured. So I don't know. There must be a difference there, but I mean that's the only similarity I can think of.
Yeah, there was that outrageous 2021 season, I think, where he played like 50 something games for Barcelona, and then he was playing at the Euros, and then straight after that at the Olympics in Tokyo. I think maybe the facilities make a big difference in this case.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. So that's everything on young players. So I guess like given that these two games are over, just more generally, like how do they prepare us for the Asian Games? Are we now prepared? What would you say? Obviously, we have like 2 World Cup qualifiers as well in November next month, which will obviously act as preparation also for the Asian Cup, given there'll be like some minutes for players. But like, how are you feeling, I guess, in October, Asian Cup in January, going into the tournament? Arya, I'll start with you.
So we're playing Hong Kong first, I believe. For me, this is a perfect game to put in some of these youngsters, right? Realistically, Hong Kong is not that much of a threat. We thrashed them before. Oh no, did we? Or no, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused with Cambodia. But nevertheless, it's a team that we should still easily beat. I think it's a perfect time for us to not test as per se, but at least give some of these youngsters few minutes, play some of the players that haven't played in the previous games. And then Uzbekistan, that's going to be a pretty serious game because I think we've all seen the rise of Uzbekistan in the last few months or years, really. I think they've been fantastic. We've played against them in the CAF Nations Cup final where we barely beat them 1-0. We really needed a Azmoun goal. We really grinded for that goal, really, to be honest. So we'll see how that Uzbekistan game turns out. And then after that, I think we're going to have a few friendlies right before the Asian Cup. There's been rumors that we're going to play South Korea or Japan. I'm not sure how reliable those are, but would be nice to have a decent opponent. So yeah, what do you guys think?
That sounds very untrue. That sounds like, I don't know if it happens, then obviously I'll take I'll apologize, but like that usually never happens. Like playing a top competitor as a friendly before a tournament where you would most likely play them. Like you don't get, I don't know, you don't get Brazil playing Argentina in a friendly before like their Confederate Cup. So I don't know. It doesn't seem likely to me.
Yeah, Arya mentioned about that Japan or Korea game. It was actually talked about in a talk show in the Iranian TV today, but I think it was Nabi, one of the guys in the federation. He mentioned something about the camp in East Asia before the Asian Cup. I don't know how that makes sense. The Asian Cup is going to take place in Qatar, and to travel all the way to East Asia, and they said if it's going to happen, they're going to use domestic players only. And I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea. I'd rather play maybe a mid or let's not say a top team, but like a mid average rated team rather than going all the way to East Asia just to use mostly domestic players for the games. Even though, yeah, it would be nice to maybe play against Korea or Japan's domestic players as well. Maybe we could see how different the levels of our leagues are. But I think maybe staying in the Middle East, maybe a game in UAE or a game even in Qatar before the tournament starts, I think that would benefit us more.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. We've talked about a lot of stuff. And I guess like the only bit of news is the World Cup qualifiers. The next 2 games that are on, we've got Hong Kong on the 16th of November and the Uzbekistan game that we mentioned on the 21st of November. So yeah, those are the 2 games coming up, and we'll obviously do a podcast before those games in November, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, thank you guys for listening at home. Thank you, Erfan and Arya, for joining me. And yeah, we'll see you guys very soon.
My name is Saman Ghoddos. I'm playing for the Iranian national team and Brentford Football Club, and you're listening to Gol Bezan podcast.